who has the best customer service? Hello and welcome to Modern Toy Fair. I'm your host, Mr. Modern Toy Fair, and I'm joined by the founder of the NEC Illuminati, the delayer of shipments, the procrastinator of pre-orders, the perfect person, the two-time daddy, my YouTube wife, Mrs. Modern Toy Fair, Jarmar_games. But that's not all. We're also joined by the consumer of all things vile, one of the former co-hosts of the Figuratively Speaking podcast, Corey. How's everybody doing?
What's going on?
I'm doing good. Doing great. Doing okay.
Just wow, you like devolved very
let's
quickly
walk
there.
that
Like, I'm doing great. I'm doing good. Not so great, guys.
I don't want to overpromise anything.
That's fair. That is very fair.
By the end of the podcast, he's gonna be like, "Well, I'm doing pretty rough."
He's like, "Well, guys, it's been good." All right, so this week, what I wanted to talk about on our first ever live version of the podcast is customer service. And this was mostly just because I was trying to come up with a topic, and I just happened to be dealing with some customer service related things recently. So, like, you know what? That's perfect. We're gonna, talk about some stories about who has the best, who has the worst, like some in between. This could be anything from your big box retailers, e-retailers, manufacturers even, because a lot of times, like with Mezco and some of the higher end companies, you're dealing with them direct versus, going through a retailer. So let's start with who wants to go first? Who wants to give us our first either like a great or horror story for customer service in the toy industry?
I mean, how about I share a story? Because I feel like I'm still like the newbie, right? Or maybe not newbie.
I mean,
which when you're not a veteran.
Out of all of us, I feel like you probably are the newest to doing things other than turtles.
Yeah, but I'm also just like out there on the big bad toy stores and all that good stuff. But basically the reason why I'm saying this, just for clarification, is before like NECA really started popping off, most of my turtle purchases were all like Playmates, or Nate's not here, so I can say it. Retro figures. So yeah, like obviously customer service wasn't really a thing for that. But one thing that I started the story out talking about NECA, has nothing to do with NECA. It actually has to do with Super 7 and ordering some Super 7. Wait, Big Bad Toy Store. And ordering something Super 7.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. I was like, when did you ever order directly from Super 7? Like, this is news to me.
Well, this is actually part of the reason why, outside of like some other practices that Super 7 does, but I ordered the it was Metalhead, right? It was
Metalhead. Yeah, I remember, because then you sold me the defective one.
Yeah. So I got my brand new shiny Metalhead, opened it out of the box, and sadly loose legs, which I mean they were bad, but I guess it wasn't like weren't the worst, but it was really awful. And I just thought, I don't know, I'll just shoot my shot and reach out to Big Bad Toy Store, and to my surprise, their bitch just like, okay, well, we're gonna go ahead and ship another one out to you. And I was actually shocked. Not really much. I mean, I did send like a picture and show like holding the body just like horizontal, and the legs just kind of like hanging there. And yeah, I was kind of blown away, because I thought for sure like, well, I just wasted my money, because I did purchase Samurai Leo at a local toy store. RIP Classic Plastics is no longer open, but I purchased Samurai Leo. That was the last one they had. Got it home, opened it up, was like, oh yeah, and it was loose fucking legs, and I was like, oh man. So I called, didn't have any other one, and it was basically just like, well, this is mine now. So I was afraid that wait, that happened actually after, now that I think about it.
Oh yeah, that happened a long time after that, because Metalhead came out
that was
before.
A long time after. That's right.
That was within the last year, probably.
Yeah. Because I bought that on the way home from. Okay, yeah. So that was actually after the fact. So maybe that is why I kind of was like, I should just only buy them on Big Bad Toy Store. That might be the case. But yeah, either way, Big Bad Toy Store replaced it, pretty much no questions asked. I also actually received my donkey. All of these are Super 7, and I swear I love Super 7. But
It's almost like there's a trend of what happens when you order Super 7 figures.
My Slam Dunking Don had, like, at his wrist, when you would hold the ball, it was like loose. Like the joint
that's
was
surprising, because usually their wrist joints are like super tight and like you're afraid you're gonna break them.
Yeah, so what I did is, it was like kind of like the peg. So like when you would move it up, the peg would, like, it was kind of coming out. I think the hole was a little too big. That makes sense. Like anyways, so what I did is I just put some blue tack inside of it, pushed it in, and after like a day or so, it was fine. But I did reach out to them initially in my first moment of panic, and same thing. They said, just send a picture, let us know. Like, we'll definitely get one sent out to you. But I tried that first just because I didn't really want to bother them. But yeah, I mean, they probably the best, I would say, hands down, out of some other situations. I'm sure you guys probably have more.
I mean, to piggyback off of the Big Bad Toy Store parade here, I have had a number of different issues with action figures, and they've taken care of me every time. Like, I'm afraid sometimes to reach out to them about issues, because I'm afraid they're gonna be like, listen, bro, you have too many fucking problems. But like, I've had anything from high-end stuff. Like, I've had like some high-end stuff like Mafex like show up with some really bad paint defects or something, or I've had most recently last week I showed off the X-Men 97 Marvel Legends figure. When I went to go to open it, I was looking at it and I realized big old black mark across the forehead of the masthead. Reached out to them, they refunded me, told me to keep it because they don't have another one. So like they probably are going to end up being like the big winner here of best in show for customer service, because I've never had a bad experience with them. On the flip side, though, if we want to go with a little bit of a horror story, let's talk about one of their only like major competitors at the moment, which is Entertainment Earth, and how god awful their customer service is. So about a month ago, it was the G.I. Joe anniversary figures. They had like the army building type guys who had like all the extra accessories and stuff that were like $35 or something like that. I ordered multiple because I wanted to army build them. Well, I got the charge and I was like, oh shit, I forgot I even pre-ordered those from them, because at the time I think they went up before everyone else or something. I can't remember why. I usually don't order from Entertainment Earth, but there must have been some reason. And apparently I don't order them from them so like often enough that they still had my old address in Arizona, and I didn't realize it.
No.
So I get first I get a charge. I'm like, what the fuck is this? So I went and I looked and I'm like, oh, and then I instantly saw it was the wrong address. So this is like middle of the afternoon. I email them, and 5 days later they email me back. Hey, sorry, this has already been shipped. There's nothing we can do. You're going to have to reach out to the post office. You shipped it fucking UPS. How am I supposed to do anything about that? I'm like, oh, well, they should hand it off to the post office. I'm like, no, not in all areas. Like, there's a lot of areas where they keep it, like, depending on how busy those post offices are. And I'm like, it won't let me change it because I'm not the shipper. You need to do something about this. And they argued back and forth with me. I'm like, listen, I gave you 5 days to reply this email. I emailed you the second I got like charged and looked it up. Like, just because you guys dragged your feet, it's not my fault. And even when they emailed me back, it still hadn't had a shipping label made. It was just in prepared for shipment. So they had all the opportunity to just simply change the address or cancel it or something, and they just were not having it. So I ended up having to open a PayPal dispute against them to get my money back, because like they weren't gonna lift their finger, and I wasn't gonna get the figures. So I was like, well, I mean, if that's it is what it is. And then once the items were delivered in Arizona, and because they were like, well, maybe the person will do return to sender. I'm like, no one's gonna fucking take the effort to do return to sender. And UPS doesn't knock on anyone's door like all these companies think. They just drop shit off.
Right.
Not when it's a big box.
In general, like I had some Magic cards that were going to be delivered right before I went to Chicago, and they were supposed to go to the post office, so we had the mail held. And then the night before we were going to leave, they decided that they were going to deliver it instead. And I spent the night talking to customer service. I'm like, it needs held at a location, something, because like these cards are worth money and they are not in print anymore because it was like a limited edition pre-order. So like we're gonna have some problems. And they're like, oh well, they'll drop it off. They'll if you're not there, they won't drop it off. I'm like, yes, they will. It doesn't require a signature. And they're like, oh yeah, it doesn't require a signature, but they should still check. I'm like, no, they won't, because they aren't required to.
Why would they?
So like, I'm arguing with these Entertainment Earth people, and then finally like it wasn't delivered. It was delivered, but then wasn't returned to sender, and PayPal was already like going in my favor. And then they email back, well, this one time we're going to issue a refund out of convenience. I'm like, you're only doing that because you're losing this PayPal battle with me. Like, don't act like you're suddenly on my side. So, like, I've had some bad experiences with customer service, but Entertainment Earth is easily one of the worst I've ever done, especially with toy industry stuff.
So the resolution of this situation was you ended up with your money back, but they still delivered.
Yeah, they delivered the toys to whoever the fuck lives at my old apartment on the other side of the country. So because they refused to change the address, they lost money and product.
Right.
I don't really want.
It's funny.
I don't want to pile on to Entertainment Earth.
But please do.
My issue was with them as well. So Super 7, back when Ninja Turtles was
the hot thing,
gearing up, they came out with that Mutagen Man, glow in the dark Mutagen Man, and when that was out, I had Turtles fever huge. Like Super 7 could do no wrong back then, and I was just like, I'll buy that variant. I'll buy that variant. I will buy them all. I don't care what it is. And so Entertainment Earth comes out with that, saying it's their exclusive. And immediately, right then, I pre-ordered it. And, back then, we all didn't know that Super 7 was a delayer of shipments like they are. And
like my wonderful YouTube wife, Jarmar Games.
And so I'm just sitting there, I didn't think anything of it. And then one day I get a sponsored ad on Facebook or Instagram or something, and it was Entertainment Earth saying, oh, now it's I can't remember the price, but back then it might have been, I think it might have been like $35-$40 or something, and the sale price was like $28, and I was like, what the hell? It's like they haven't even shipped mine, and this thing hasn't even hit the floor yet, and they're discounting it. So I go to cancel my pre-order, which you can cancel pre-orders with them if it hasn't shipped yet. And I go to cancel it, and it would not let me, even though I had no shipping info, no nothing.
They knew what they were doing.
Yeah, they knew exactly what was going on. And so I called them. I didn't email them. I called their customer service number, and I shit you not, it sounded like a dude on a couch. Like, just like...
You're his fan in the background.
Yeah, he was just like...
He's watching Jerry Springer.
It was like, I have this order. I want to cancel it. Actually, I want to cancel it because you guys have it for cheaper. I don't think that's really cool that you guys put it on sale before because I pre-ordered it the day it came out. And we're talking like 8 months later or 6 months later or whatever. It still hasn't shipped. And I'm like, what the hell? So, and he was just flat out, he was like, you know what? The reason why you can't cancel it is because yours is already shipping. I was like, well, where's the tracking info? And he's like, sorry, man, I can't refund it. And he goes, you're more than welcome to, when you get it,
return it.
You can return it, like on my own dime, because that's how that works. I can return it, and then he'll get me another one with the discounted price, which is all total BS.
By the time you pay for the shipping to ship it back to him, you're losing that 20% discount anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Exactly. And so I decided right then and there, I was like, I am never buying anything from you guys ever again. And it's kind of on their fault anyway. Like, it's been years. Big Bad Toy Store has had the pile of loot for years, if not a decade now, right? And the $4 shipping thing is awesome, even though it does take like insane amounts of time.
Yeah, I can go on like a
Sometimes.
3-hour tour across the whole
Right.
UN.
Right, but you think Entertainment Earth would be like, hey, we need to figure out a way to combat this in some way, shape, or form. But they just haven't. They really haven't. They're like, free shipping over, I think it's like 35 or $40 now. But other than that, like, they're still kind of like in that dark ages of early 2000s internet purchases, that they're just like not changing. I don't understand that business model. But yeah, I do not buy from them anymore unless it's absolutely like the last resort for whatever I'm looking for. And Big Bad Toy Store is always my go-to. And because, you can cancel things so easily, just, back and forth.
So real quick before we continue, I do want to address the chat. We got Boogeyman13 in there. How's it going, man? And then we have the podcast's very own, who could not be here tonight because he was too busy, Nate, in the chat.
He's in the chat?
He's in the chat. He's like, yo, apes rule all.
So what do you do? Go see a movie?
Yeah, he went to see the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. The man who, rarely sees any form of media when it first came out, if ever.
Hey, it's Planet of the Apes.
He'll defend something tooth and nail, and you'll be like, "Did you see it?" And he's like,
nope.
"Nah, I didn't see it."
Will you see it? Probably not.
No. I do want to see that movie though. I've been going back and watching the older ones. That first one is so choppy though. You're like, how come nobody shot those monkeys?
Are you talking about the first one from the new stuff or the first one from the old movies?
2011.
Okay, the most recent, the James Franco one.
James Franco one, yeah. Yeah, it just doesn't make sense how that they're in that habitat and then they go up on that hill and then there's like 150 monkeys and then they go to a zoo and then there's like 1,000 monkeys. It's like crazy how their numbers just like multiply in that movie. And you're like, the only people that had guns were the police on the bridge and that was it. I was like, wow, like a decade and a half later and this still bugs me. But I still love those movies.
Boogeyman just says that Nate's just doing his thing and taking the show off the rails.
I mean, he literally did just take the show off the rails without even technically being.
So to transition a little bit here, another good experience that I've had is surprisingly with one of the overseas retailers. For anyone who's watched the show for any amount of time, you know that I usually try to order my MoffX figures from Ami. One, because it's significantly cheaper, and two, you usually get them like a month before Big Bad Toy Store will get them. So I ordered, this was a couple months ago, those Gundam figures to like finish out my like team of 5 for the Gundam Wing set. And was it Shenlong was the one where like the joint was cracked so his arm would not stay on. And we were discussing it on the podcast and I was like, oh, I'll just glue it or something like that. And I was like, you know what, screw it, I'll email him. So I did. Great experience. It was a little difficult because the time difference, so like they'd email me at like 4 a.m. I emailed them at like 8 a.m. and then like have to wait another like almost 20 hours to get a response. But they replaced the figure, and so one thing I did notice that I don't blame them for not taking fault, but what happened, because with their used figures, they have a grading system, and if it's like a lower grade, it will tell you what's wrong with it. And one of the lower grade ones that they had on the site was exactly what was wrong with mine. So I think what happened is someone shipped me the wrong one, because I ordered, because they had one that was like in mint condition, and then they had like 2 that were in like condition with like the cracked joint. So they never like admitted fault on that. They tried briefly to try to convince me out of it. They're like, well, this was a known issue with this figure, blah, 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 so it may still happen with the new one. And I'm like, that's fine. I still want to, try. And they were like, well, here's what we'll do. You ship it to us. You send us a picture of the receipt and the label. we'll PayPal you what you paid for it, and then we'll ship you another one. And granted, it took like the whole process was probably a month's time between going back and forth with them, shipping it, getting the refund, and then getting the figure. Like that, I got it. It was in great condition. It was the one, I'm pretty sure it was the one I was ordering originally. And I also didn't have to pay for the shipping to send it back. I'm like, this is a company who just paid for like $25 shipping to have me return an item to them from across the world. But then Entertainment Earth wants you to front the $10 to send it back to them, when usually it's something on their end that was the problem. So like Ami, like I was shocked. I expected them to be like, oh well, if you want to return it, we'll refund you the money, blah blah blah. But I didn't expect them to go over and beyond like they did. Especially not for what would be an international order for them.
You ended up getting the money back plus the figure as well.
I got the money back for my shipping, so that because I had to ship it to them, and they PayPal'd me the money for what I paid for shipping, which was pretty much immediate. Like I sent it to them. It took longer for them to respond to the email because of the time difference than it did for them actually to like refund me the money. And so, and then I got the figure, and it's in great condition. It's over on my shelf of all my other Gundams, and I'm still just like baffled that, a company across on the other side of the world has better customer service than some of the companies here in America.
Do you think that they maybe were like, what is this guy talking about? And they went into their inventory and they looked and they were like, oh no, we still have the good one that he bought.
That's very possible. That's very possible. But they never like admitted fault, never were like, oh, we're sorry you got the wrong one or anything. They were, I think there may have been a situation where maybe they had them in like a filing system on some shelves and they got swapped somehow. So maybe the one they were going to send me, they thought was the one that was listed on their website. Because I tried to explain the situation of like, I think this is what happened based off like deductive reasoning of what's listed on your site versus what I ordered. And they didn't seem to really like understand. So I assumed that maybe it was just like someone swapped them on a shelf somewhere, and they were just like, well, the one we have claims that it has that same problem, bro. So like, are you sure you want to do this? I'm like, yeah, because I think I'm right. Like it's too perfect that like what's described on your website for the shitty one is exactly what I got. So I'm like, I feel like I've got at least a 75% chance of this going in my favor.
That's right.
So yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by that one.
You think like when they were reading your email the first time, they're like, this guy made up a great story.
Yeah, they're like, man, this guy really is just like blaming the shit out of us.
We got a Stephen King over here.
I mean, it was like I was just like trying to explain it like the best I could, because I know there's gonna be like a translation barrier. So I'm just like, I don't want to like be too no, because like listen, for my job I have to communicate through a website called Alibaba with companies in China for manufacturing. So like you have to word things a certain way because the languages don't translate well. Like if I were to get something in Chinese and try to translate it through Google Translate, the sentence might not make as much sense through English as it would, and so like that. So it's not like being like racist or anything. It's just fact. Like languages are different, so they don't always line up.
Just keeping you honest.
But yeah, so like I was trying to like do it in a way where I like was using as few words as possible because I didn't want to make it too wordy and it not make sense. But at the same time, like, how do I explain this without it being wordy?
Hey, Reddit was like, my toy broken, need new one. You have fixed one.
You have good one. I bought. I want. Please send now.
What's wrong with this guy? Just send him the fucking toy.
They were like fucking Americans, bunch of cave people.
Yeah. I want toy working.
Like so I crossed this language barrier. I have animated my issue.
I have made a Venn diagram for you to better explain this. I am actively doing charades on camera for you. Sam Hoffsummer says Sideshow was pretty good getting me a replacement last time I received a broken statue. I've heard very 50-50 on their customer service. I'm in their rewards group, and I've seen some people who will get some of those really expensive statues and pretty much get the shaft if something's wrong with it. Either because like it's obviously not available anymore, and Sideshows is like sucks to suck. We'll give you a discount code for your next purchase, or just like in general like resistance. But I've also heard great stories like that where they're like over and beyond. So I don't know if it's just a situational thing where if it's too big or too expensive, they don't want to fuck with it.
It might be like an availability thing, because all of their stuff is like really
it's
small,
and it always sells out like
right.
through the pre-orders, and they don't seem to order extra to in case anything happens.
Right. I have a hot take with like statues and stuff. I don't understand why, as like a collector community, why is like resin statues, why is like that the material that everybody uses to make statues? Because it seems like it's fragile as hell.
Because it's cheap.
No, it breaks all the time, right?
Yeah, they cost like it's right. That's pretty simple. Like it's probably the cheapest thing to make it out of.
The statues aren't cheap though.
But but that's because there's a lot of detail that goes into them. But I'm saying the material is cheap to keep the cost of those statues from being even more astronomical.
Well, I'll tell you what, like, I've been collecting those diamond gallery statues that are just plastic, and they're like $60. And you look at some of the resin statues they make, and I'm like, there's no difference. There's no, if you just put it on a shelf, you can't tell, that one is made of plastic.
I feel like that's more on the statue than if you can't tell, because I feel like the statue, well, if it doesn't have more detail, it doesn't matter, but like...
I don't know. I think they're pretty freaking awesome.
I'm just thinking that like a lot of the Sideshow ones that get into a couple $100 have an insane amount of detail in them. So I have to assume they're using resin to then offset the cost of, paying someone to sculpt that and then to cast all that detail and stuff like that would be my best guess. I have no fucking clue.
My statues and show you some of the diamond statues that are just...
I've seen some of the diamond. I've owned some of the diamond ones. They're nice. Like I really like them. I've seen some of the like crazy Sideshow ones like at shows and stuff, and they're like when you go from a $60 statue to like a $500 statue, there's a bit of a difference.
Sure, but you also make the argument that if you're already spending $500, it's like another, couple hundred, or maybe not a couple hundred.
People bitch about everything.
Like $50 to get something that would be more durable.
But they probably aren't going to make it out of plastic. They're probably at that point going to make it out of like something ridiculous. Like when Mezco made Darkseid out of that polystone bullshit for no reason at all.
Idea. That was a really dumb idea.
Yeah. They're like, oh, we're going to make him out of this heavier material because he's made of rock. And it's like, why? He's a fucking action figure. And now I'm paying you $80 more because he's made of fucking polystone.
And those
sounds kind of cool to me.
Yeah.
But that would be my concern, is like, how long would you have that material?
Well, but here's the thing though, that
joints are going to be broke.
That figure did, like, you couldn't tell the difference visually. He was just heavy as shit is all it did. So then to make it worse, when he inevitably would fall over off your shelf or something because his ankles would give out, he would do more damage to himself because he's so fucking heavy. So like it was terrible. Like, terrible decision.
I think that was around the time where I was like, I don't think 112 is for me anymore.
That like, I assume you mean the 112 collective like line. Not,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was like, you still collect 112 scale. What are you talking about?
It's that line.
That's
that line. I think that was around the time where I was like, I think I'm selling all these.
I held out I held out until I got fed up with the fact that they hadn't released or announced like more than a handful of licensed product, but we had gotten like 15 different variations of Gomez and friends, and I was like, okay, this is not for me.
So some of them, like that first Batman, that Dark Knight Batman, I remember being like, man, that's so cool. But once again, just polystone. I'm looking at the fabric, and it's like, this is like has elastic material in it. This stuff is not going to last. Like, if I want this figure for a decade, it's going to start looking messed up. Or if it's on your shelf, it's going to get dusty. Cloth needs to be cleaned. There were so many questions going through my head. I was like, I don't think this is going to work out. And then some of them, like I remember that Black Bolt and Lockheed set that I just thought Black Bolt just looked stupid with the real cloth material.
Like the onesie, yeah.
Yeah, they did. It looked like a onesie. He was in his pajamas.
Yeah, with Mezco, for me it was just the fact that they quit releasing anything I like wanted. They were focusing on their own IP for a while there, and then seeing like, 'cause I had that I had like a couple of the different variations of that Dark Knight Returns figure, and seeing it next to the Mafex one, and like for a while there I was like, oh, I love the soft goods, like it's so cool because it's more realistic. But then seeing the sculpted detail and how much more accurate to the like art the Mafex version was, and how better it could pose and like all that, and the fact that it had a posable cape, I was like, oh well, oh, like my entire reality was like shattered. And then that between that and the Gambit figure came out, and that Gambit figure is hands down the best Gambit figure ever made. And I'm like, the Mezco Gambit doesn't even have ab crunch because he's got a fucking plate of armor for a chest, like for his chest piece. So it's like, yeah, I think I'm out.
You're crazy, man. Toy Biz. 1995 Toy Biz is the best Gambit figure ever made.
Oh, you're talking about the old one with the shitty kit, with the shitty jacket. I thought you were talking about the Marvel Legends one. I'm like, you mean with the one with the clampy, or correction, the clampy hands?
the clampy hands.
Well, because look at the one hand goes like this, and you go, and the other hand had like a peace sign for him to hold his things, and goes like this, and I'm like, oh
yeah.
I was like, this is weird.
That's the cigarette smoking fingers.
Yeah. It made it difficult because like if you want to pose him holding his like bow staff, which also was like very warped, he just looked weird because he would have two fingers always out, like and it's
you know what I still have from Toy Biz is what? All of the diorama that they made, like all the Sentinel pieces.
Oh yeah, those were dope.
Remember, I was like, I'm not getting rid of these. Like,
that's
these
fair.
Are too fun.
I don't know if I still have them. I had a couple of them at one point. I think I had the head and the chest piece still at one point.
They were great.
All right, we got a little off track there. So what other experiences we got
a
here?
Little bit. I'll shout out NECA.
Like direct NECA?
Yeah, direct NECA. The movie Turtles from the third movie.
Oh.
Remember, I had received that, and
refs like entire body was.
Yeah, it was because the arm.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, it was supposed to come out, and it's just having an issue with that. And I mean, they never responded to me, so I won't say that it was like the best, customer service, because they never responded. I never received an email or anything back. I sent like a bunch of pictures and everything, and then I don't know, probably like about a week or so after that, I just received a package. And it had the replacement body. Now, they didn't send like the entire figure, obviously, because they were like, hey, we're not trying to be in that business. But they sent me the replacement body. But I ended up getting it back on with some ingenuity of like heating and stuff like that. And so I just have this extra body just sitting here now. Just the
so you fixed your original one and still have the
I fixed the original one. Yeah, because they never sent anything back. So I was like, well, fuck this. I guess I'll try and figure it out myself. And then, to my surprise, they were like, oh, no, here you go. So, yeah, I have a upper body with arms on it. So
you're prepared for if he ever falls over and
that's exactly it. But I'm like, don't do this. Please don't do this.
So wait, then is that body universal for all four turtles? Like if any of them break, you can
I was looking. I don't think.
I can't remember if they had different color.
I'm trying to look from right here and I can't tell, but I think they are pretty much about the same. I don't think there's any color difference between them.
Because the armor like is a separate piece, so you just got like the torso and arms. You didn't get like the armor like piece attached to it. So as long as the arms,
it is. It's all the.
Oh, it's
all attached.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all attached. Like the armor and stuff is all attached. It's not like removable at all. You know what I mean? Like the plates and stuff, like the samurai gear. That's not removable. It's all.
Oh, I thought it was like a separate piece, like a floating piece.
Yeah, it's all together. So I'm pretty sure they're all the same. If anything, it might be a subtle pattern difference between like two of the turtles or something like that. But yeah, so I just have a backup just in case. Just in case.
There you go.
That's a practice that I wish that other toy companies had, just like spare parts.
Yeah.
Because their excuse now for anything, if anything's wrong, they're like Hasbro, Mattel, they're just like, all right, just send it back, you know. Like they don't do that anymore. That used to be like a thing, like in the 90s. Like I specifically remember my dad messaging Mattel and like just getting a piece of something, you know.
I think I've heard that Jada Toys does that.
Oh really?
That's smart.
That they send replacement parts.
Do you want to lose a piece of your Ken figures so we can test that out?
I mean, I'm not breaking my Ken to test that.
Let's call Jada Toys on the air.
If I still had, because I did do a kit bash of my Ryu figure to switch him with the like not jaundice version, and if I still had that, I'd test it. But like, I ain't breaking Ken. I still haven't seen one in store. The only reason I have that is because BFC found one.
They're like, send us a picture. You're like, oh no, they're on to me.
Yeah.
Let me open Photoshop.
So, what do you got?
I say I have a story, not about a mailing company, but I have a kind of a weird story from Target one time, and I understand that there's other toy collectors out there, and some of them, you know, have jobs at Target, and I had a job at Toys R Us for a number of years, way longer than I ever should have, because you know I would work there on the weekends. So I used to work at an Office Max in the print center, and right next door was a Target, and I had this guy who was like a crazy toy hunter. Like this dude was out there all the time. Like just in, you know, over the years we just kind of connected, and he would message me about stuff, and he knew that I was like right next door to a Target. So if there was anything like going on sale or whatever, he would message me and be like, yo man, this is on clearance right now. And I'd be like, oh, 15-minute break. And then I'd walk over there and buy something, whatever. But it was the year that the I don't know how much you guys paid attention back then, but the year the vintage collection big Millennium Falcon came out, the BMF.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
So my wife that year was like, what do you want for Christmas? And I was like, that. I want that for Christmas, you know? And it was like, I don't know, it might have been, she bought it in like November or whatever. I remember it being on sale, and I texted her and I was like, hey, that Millennium Falcon's on sale, this, you know, whatever. And then so Christmas comes around, I open it, awesome, you know, loving it. But so I mean, it's like probably like 2 months after Christmas or something, and that guy messages me. He goes, hey, that Millennium Falcon is on clearance for like $30, right? Actually, it wasn't 2 months because but my receipt was still good, you know. And me being like this, like, you know, struggling adult who works at Office Max, and I got, you know, house payment and kids, and I'm like, I could buy one and then return it with my receipt that's like $150, you know? And
oh god,
so I was totally trying to like play one over on him.
And they called you out on it, didn't they?
No. So what happened is, so I walk over there, and he goes, "There's two." I don't know how he knew this. I think he was at another Target, like running the inventory with one of their employees or whatever. And he's like, it shows that there's two over there right now. I'm like, all right, I'm going over there. I'm going to buy one. And it was like a crazy discount. I don't know if you guys remember. That thing was like $200 or whatever.
It was not cheap.
It was marked down to $30.
That's insane. That's
right?
like 90% off.
It was crazy. So I get over there, and there's a woman buying one of them. Like literally, she's like bloop, buying it. And I walk over just to see a Target employee the guy that I absolutely knew was a toy collector, and he buys it, or he grabs it, and he just like walks away. And I was like, oh, I was like, fuck, what am I gonna do? And so I'm like all defeated, and I'm like walking back to the front, you know. And I was like, I'm just gonna ask service desk and be like, hey, like what's the deal going on with that, you know? And they're like, oh, we're sold out, we don't have it. They're just like totally like saying just to get me out of there, you know, because they knew who I was at this point. And
like, oh, this guy.
Right. And so I called Target customer service. They had one in Wadsworth. The Wadsworth Target had just opened, and I don't even think they ever put them out on the floor, because I think they might have had like 5 or something like that. But I ended up buying one. My wife absolutely would not let me buy more, because she was like, "You're gonna get that money back," because I should have never paid $150 for that thing, you know. And so I did. I ended up after work that day. I went out to Wadsworth Target and picked one up, and then literally drove back to the other Target, and then walked in and was like, "I want to return this." They were like, "You jerk."
That's amazing. To really stick it to him after all that.
Yeah, I think in that story though, I am the bad guy.
Oh, 100%. You are the villain of that story.
Right.
I mean, he went and called Target's 1-800 number because he was trying to screw Target.
I'm like, listen, I'm trying
Here's
to
the thing.
right
No. There's no defending this.
I felt bad.
If I purchase something, if it's within return period, I should be able to just go in there with my receipt and be like, yo, I just bought this. And
hey, that's what they do now. That's what
they should just give me the difference.
Walk in there with your receipt and just be like, hey, this is on clearance now. And they'll be like, oh, yep, that's within the time frame. They will do.
I mean,
because if
you
they
just had to do the hard part,
then what's the point? What's the point of fighting it?
But here's the problem with that now is, I don't know if it was like that back then, but Target very much so does not have consistency with their clearance. Just because something's on clearance at one store doesn't mean it's on clearance at all of them.
Actually, as we're saying this is the case, because a lot of the Across the Spider-Verse, Beyond the Spider-Verse,
Beyond.
I flipped those around. Beyond, yeah.
I don't know which one's which.
Beyond the Spider-Verse, toys that or figures that I have, those were mostly all purchased ahead of time, and then I've got my money back from them. A couple of them I had to like rebuy and then return, like literally just buy it and then walk right over and return it. But and the clearance was different at some places. Some places it was like completely 50% off. Some places were like 25% off. But I would just go in and we would be there and they're like, oh shoot, this one's 50% off. I don't have the figure because it's at home and I'm in like, you know, Streetsboro or whatever. But we just go up there. Well, we, as in my wife, would just go over there and be like, hey, this is blah, blah, blah. And then they'd be like, all right, we'll return the difference onto the card. So they do it. I think it is just much like the clearances are to like the manager or whoever's like
the management.
It's
like
their discretion. Because friend of the show, Wesley, he tried to do the same thing, and we were out at one in like, I don't know what area. I can't even remember where it was. But I think it was me, you, and you remember me and you and Wes were out at we go like that Boardsman one or something like that.
Was it after Toy-Hio or something?
It was after
the only time the three of us have ever hung out.
That's what I mean. It was
like
after
at his
Toy-Hio.
house has been like at Toy-Hio.
Yeah, it was at Toy-Hio, but he was trying to return it. And I was like, oh, you gotta have it here. You gotta have it here.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Like,
yeah.
Why do I need to have it here if you're just lowering the price of it? But yeah, so it's totally up to the store.
Yeah, that's the downside to like that theory.
So thinking about my story now, I'm like, what if that dude was the manager that marked it down in the first place?
And he was taking them.
I'm just taking this right now. $30.
I mean, if that's the case, you think he would have held one back sooner, though?
Maybe.
Yeah. I feel like that guy probably like just happened to like be keeping an eye on it, and then he saw that one of them was being like bought, and he's like, "Well, shit, I need to hide this one in the back before the end of my shift."
One day, I keep thinking one of those like Neotac meetups that Northeast Ohio like meets up, and we all get together. One day, I'm gonna be like, see that dude there, and he's gonna be like selling one of those BMFs for like $500.
You'd be like, you made me
And
have to
you
call
just be like,
Target customer service
And then Nate's gonna be like, I bought this BMF.
for $500.
Be like, I've seen that. I've seen that
That exact one, actually. So Boogeyman has
Technically, that's mine.
has an interesting story here. He had an issue with Jacob Marley figure obscura from Four Horsemen, where the pin got with the figure wasn't in the box. When he emailed them, their response was, "Did you check under the box flaps?" I mean, that's a fair assessment. I have shipped some things to people, and I put the accessories in a little bag, and sometimes it will like come out of the bubble wrap, and it will slide under there. So that's a fair question. I'm not going to fault them for that, depending on the attitude that it came off. He said it took 2 to 3 emails over the span of 3 weeks to finally get a replacement. That's unfortunate, because they seem like they're a pretty good company. So the fact that they like gave you such pushback. So
I will say they kind of pushed back on me too. Like I opened a Cosmic Legions figure, and it was like one of those bug guys, and you know, me not really knowing about what those are all about, I bought it at Toy Hio, and I opened it up, and it definitely was unopened, and I opened it up, and he had these like little arm blasters that were supposed to like connect into his arms, and he didn't come with either one of them, and the only reason I saw it was the back had it on there. So I messaged them, and I was like, hey, is this guy supposed to come with these like little arm blasters? Because he never did. And they didn't come off as like a defensive or like a pushback. They kind of were just like curious as to like hey, where did you purchase this at? And I was like, well, it was a toy show in Girard, Ohio. You know, I purchased it from a dealer. I also bought, I think I bought the Jacob Marley there, and the mask, or no, not the Jacob Marley, but the Mask of Red Death there as well at the same time. So I'm like showing them, taking pictures of me, like, I'm like, look, I bought this there too. And then they were like, okay, you know, and they finally sent me those blasters. So I think them being a smaller company, they're just kind of like,
they're trying to trying to be careful, because they also have like verified dealers that they deal with, versus it being like all the people who might order wholesale through other companies. So they probably also were hoping that maybe it was through one of them, and they'd be like, okay, this is legit, versus being like, oh, he bought it from some schmuck at a fucking toy show in the middle of bumfuck nowhere.
They probably have shipments too. So it comes from China and just goes to wherever it's going to, right? Yeah, so they don't see a lot of those shipments. So if somebody comes out on and is like, hey, this pin is messed up, they're going to be like, well, we need to figure out where that one came from, because if this is a widespread problem, then they need to do something else.
To trace it back.
It was also, I mean, even if they had got them shipped to the warehouse, like their warehouse, and then distributed them, I feel like they wouldn't have time to go through hundreds of things to notice that, regardless, unless it was something that they noticed and like on the first one, then like everyone after that kind of thing. So we don't have a whole lot of time left. I do want to back up a little bit to earlier. We were talking about Mezco and how we quit it. So Mezco's customer service is interesting. I've never had a quote unquote bad experience with them. I know there's a lot of people who've bashed them in the groups, which confuses me because I've never had a problem. But the problem with Mezco is they just are terrible at responding. So they'll fix your problem, but you're probably be waiting as long as you would for a pre-order to get it fixed, because they took, what was it? There was like something that I had an issue or something was broken or something, and it took them almost a week to respond the first time. And then like another few days after that, and another few days after that, and they finally agreed to like send me a replacement. And then when they did send the replacement, it didn't like, I don't think I got tracking. It just showed up like 6 to 8 weeks later. So I think it was like over 2 months that this entire process took just to get a replacement or like from them. And yeah, so their customer service isn't necessarily bad. It's just not well-oiled machine. We'll say that.
Fair.
So real quick before we start closing things out, does anyone else have any like quick stories before we kind of deem who we feel is like best in show?
Nah, I feel like I kind of.
So
Luckily, those are all my trauma situations.
That's fair.
I
I have one more horror story. I also want to quickly shout out Nerdzoic because Big Nerdy takes care of his customers. I've never had an issue with anything I've bought from him, but like I've talked to him and he's like gone through and replaced stuff that's broken for people, and worked with them and he's even worked with people who got screwed by like when Dorkside went under. He worked with people who got screwed by them to like get them a discount in his store to get the item they wanted. So like he takes care of everybody.
I forgot all about them.
Yeah. Hasbro Pulse has terrible customer service. Every time I've had to deal with them, it's a nightmare. They are very much, they don't want to help you. They want you to go away, and it's very adamant. I've had something show up broken and they like, dragged their feet and made it a miserable experience. And then most recently with the Vamp, when it came through for pre-orders 2 months early, it was like a week before payday. And I was like, I can't fucking, I ordered 2 of them because I wanted 2 of them. So that's like over $200. So they have a thing where if, it doesn't charge, or it'll charge if it doesn't hit, you have 5 days to do it. And if it tries it again, you get it like tries it 5 more days. And the email, like, this is what the email said to me. So like, I was like, cool, it failed. It's going to land. The 5th day is going to land on payday. I'll be fine. 2 days later, they email me canceling it. And so I email them like, hey, and I sent a screenshot. I'm like, your email said I had 5 days. Like, I get paid on Friday. So like, it was going to hit on the 5th day. And they're like, oh, well, that's just an on-made day. We need to cancel it for restock. And I'm like, but that was my pre-order. And you decided to release this 2 months early. And your email clearly states here that I had 5 more days to pay it. Oh, well, it's too late. We can't undo it. I'm like, okay, great. So like,
that's crazy that they're cutting numbers that hard too.
I kind of feel like, oh, go ahead.
No, I'm good.
I was just gonna say, I feel like if Nate was here, he would give you shit about waiting.
Oh, he would. He 100%
so
would.
I was trying to think of a statement that Nate would be like, well, you should have had it ready.
Oh yeah, I should have been. I should have had that budgeted, to come out 2 months early. That's on me. All right, so real quick before I get to the Patreon input. Eric the Met in the chat. I will say this: Big Bad Toy Store were great when I wanted a refund on the SH Figures Berserk figures that recently came out. Glad I had them in my pile of loot. I had to call and the lady gave me store credit. That's awesome. Boogerman 13. I have heard really good stories about Big Nerdy's customer service from friends. Yeah, he's a great dude. Like he works with you and tries to make it happen if something's wrong. So, since Nate is not here to do his job, I unfortunately am going to have the dyslexic task of reading the dramatic Patreon input. So bear with me.
Nate's greatest gift to me.
Yeah. Listen here, you're not much better than me, bud. I remember story time with Jarmar.
Pro now. I read every night.
Yeah.
Listen,
you say you read a Dr. Seuss book that's like 5 words per page. I don't think that's going to help improve you too much.
Your memory of my Dr. Seuss is far off, my friend. Trust me. They're a lot longer than you think.
All right, let's see what we got here. This
shocked.
is from good old Sukma Taint.
Of course.
The absolute worst customer service in the toy podcast community is Modern Toy Fair's very own Nate. I have been emailing him for months at sexynate69@gmail.com, and all he ever does is send me back dick pics. And not Batman's teenage sidekick, although once he did put a tiny Batman costume on it. That was cute.
I guess is this perfect that he's not here?
Yes, I feel like that makes it better.
Reading it god.
Oh shit.
Fantastic.
All right. Well, on that wonderful note, if you enjoyed this podcast, please make sure to like and subscribe. It helps us out, gets you a bunch of toy-related content in your feed. Right now, things are a little thin while we do some reorganizing of the channel, but we've got the weekly live stream is going to be every other week between the podcast and OnlyFigs, our toy haul live stream. So check that out, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Wednesday nights. You can check us out Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Modern Toy Fair. If you haven't already, check out Toytography Magazine. Let me put the little bumper up here before I get. They are a great source of just tips and tricks, since Nate wasn't here to cleverly read the ad read, and it's way too long for my dyslexic ass to get through. They have tons of things from like lighting composition. The next issue, I'm gonna actually have an article in it where I give you some tips and tricks on removing stands in Photoshop from your photos, and they want me to potentially keep doing one every issue with different tips, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, great magazine. We were in the last one for a photo I got in the Facebook group that won, and then also we have our ad because we're a partner with them that runs in there. Beyond that, if you'd like to help support us in all of this wonderful toy glory, you can head over to patreon.com/moderntoyfair. Links in the description below. We have a free trial. It's 7 days. Try it before you buy it. It is $1. You'll get early access to anything that we record in advance, any photos I take. I'm going to check with Toytography Magazine to see if maybe I can be allowed to post my article in our Patreon exclusively first. But
cool.
we'll see. That no promises there. But essentially anything, like, you also get access to the Patreon input for the episodes. You can suggest fake podcasts for Nate to read if he was here. All sorts of stuff. Once we start doing more pre-record stuff, which will mostly be my how-to videos and maybe the occasionally like review. I haven't decided yet if I want to. I've had a few people be like they don't want me to quit doing reviews, but I kind of want to quit doing reviews, so we'll see. Definitely not going to do them with the frequency I used to be doing them, but that link is in the description below. You can check Jarmar out over on TikTok at Jarmar_games. What you got for us, Corey?
Facebook, Instagram, TikTok at Vile Consumption. I'm also a little light on the content lately. That's just because I am going balls to the wall with stuff, and I don't have anything to show yet because it's all part of something bigger. So I can't show anything, and so
I assume this is like your art related to your art.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, is there something else he's working on that he hasn't told us about?
Are you working on a different?
I was like, is he doing his own YouTube channel? Like we gave him that much confidence that he's like, I want to do this too.
Vintage Toy Fair.
Vile toy sumption.
For my first episode, I start a feud with you guys.
He's like, he writes a diss track.
There we go. There goes our views. We just got to do diss tracks.
Oh, you know what? That's what we'll do. We'll kick him off the show. He goes and does his own diss track. We'll bring Jason on the show because he used to be great at those during Fanboy Fight Club.
That's a good point.
You should not be saying this on the actual podcast. This is a good idea.
Listen, at some point, I would love to maybe eventually do like some form of Fanboy Fight Club for this, like just as like a one-off. Like I think that'd be fun.
Be funny.
Yeah. Don't know how we do it, but I think that'd be fun. But anyway,
they have to be one. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, also, like, if you want to understand what the fuck Fanboy Fight Club is, all of the old Patreon exclusive episodes, I think there's 9 or 10 of them, are up on Patreon for $1. They used to have to pay $5 for it, but now that everything's $1, you have access to everything. If for any reason something's not showing up, please message me and let me know, because I know when I changed the format of Patreon, it glitched out for like a week or so before it like did everything, but all the videos when I check them say that they're available for the $1 tier now. So if it's not, let me know. I may have to go and download them and re-upload them or something. But that should be working now. On that note, though, hopefully see you next week. Same toy time, same Toy Fair channel.
Toy news.
Peace.
Thank you for watching.